Hello and welcome to Industry Confidential. Today we are sitting down with Andre Durbano, Vice President of Sales at RISO Incorporated. Thank you so much for joining us today.
How are you, Talar?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
You guys just celebrated 20 years of inkjet. Congratulations on that.
We did, yeah, 20 years. It goes by pretty quick, and I've been around for a good part of those 20 years as well. It's been, and you know what, it's been an interesting transition, not just from a RISO perspective, but from an industry as a whole, to watch that change over the past 20 years. I have to tell you, that very first RISO 20 years ago, it wasn't even a calm color back then.
It looked like a duplicator.
Yeah. It was kind of a hybrid. Today we call it a hybrid. Actually, to be totally honest, it wasn't a pretty picture, but it's come a long way, as has the changes in ink, the printer itself, the front end devices that run these units is completely different from what it was back in 2005.
Well, that's awesome. Congratulations
Yep,
again. That's a great achievement. 20 years of inkjet. So we're going to go right into it here, actually. So RISO started its fiscal year, its new one, in April 2025. Talk to me a little bit about quarter one and what you've experienced. American businesses and consumers obviously are continuously being presented with challenges, and were presented with challenges in that quarter one. What have you seen throughout the industry when it comes to tariffs, and how are print providers responding to those challenges and to those tariffs?
So those are economic-based questions. That's good. I wasn't expecting that today, but it is a big factor in the decision-making process, in how print providers buy. Their print strategy is all predicated by how ultimately the consumer, the print buyer, behaves, and the types of jobs they sell or they send over to these print providers. And it's been not just 2025 and the tariffs, but it's been literally since the pandemic to a certain degree. The past 5 years has been a mishmash of challenges that have come at the print provider in many different ways. It started during the pandemic. The first big shift was with paper, right? There was a lot of consolidation with the paper mills that impacted supply. Prices went up on paper. You had people retiring during the pandemic, all of which led to higher wages. So now you have higher cost of paper, you've got higher cost of wages, and not to be outdone, you've got the United States Postal Service year after year increasing the cost of postage. And literally here we are in the middle of July, and it was, I think, 48 hours ago that the USPS announced yet another 7 to 15% increase in mailing costs, as they attempt to be, if not profitable, not to lose as much, which is kind of challenging for a mailing service. It is a service, but we're not going to get into the economics of mailing. But so that's 3 elements which many have described as the backbone of the print industry, when you've got postage, wages, and paper all being hit at the same time over the past 5 years. And every time one of those elements has to increase in cost, that print shop, the manager or the owner of that operation, has to call the end user, their customer, and say, look, I'm sorry to have to do this to you, but we've got to increase our prices yet again. It's not me, I'm not being greedy, it's just the nature of the industry that's forcing me. And if you watch the news, you'll know what I'm talking about. And this has occurred on multiple occasions over the past 5 years. And along comes 2025, when, to a certain degree, things are kind of starting to settle down, and now the print provider has to deal with tariffs. And we really haven't felt the impact of tariffs yet. To a certain degree, some products have gone up, but over the next 12 months, that is going to be a major source of focus and concern for anybody running a print operation, as you start seeing costs of all kinds going up in the cost of raw materials and goods. And so yet again, that's going to impact profit, and if it impacts profit, it's going to impact the selling price. So ultimately, it's that print buyer who's going to feel the brunt of all this.
So do you anticipate more short-run jobs in the future for a lot of these printers?
Well, so that's kind of what's happening, is the print buyer who has a budget, and that budget is now shrinking given the buying power of the dollar. You know, where at one point that print buyer would say, and when I say print buyer, these are people who run the marketing departments of corporate America. If they had a job of 1 million prints, today they're saying, look, I can't afford to give you a job of 1 million, but let's start with 500,000. Let's print the 500,000 first, and we'll see how it goes. And if it's successful, we'll print another 300,000-400,000 maybe. We'll see. So it's a very tentative approach from the print buyer. And the impact of that, taking a job of 1 million and cutting it in half, or taking a job of 2 million or 10 million and cutting that in half, means that on the print floor itself of that print operation, they are no longer running that one job that is a great big job. They're running much shorter run jobs, as you just said, and they're running many more of those jobs simultaneously. So it's completely changed the print strategy of anybody who's running a print shop, where they used to have maybe 3, 4, 5 big pieces of equipment to handle all that volume. Today they need about 15 to 20 pieces of equipment, where units 1 to 6 could be running one job, units 7 to 9 running a second job, a third, and they're running all these jobs simultaneously with the objective of getting multiple jobs out in that one day, in an 8-hour shift or 2 shifts in 16 hours, getting multiple jobs out so that within that 24-hour period, they can turn around that job and get it back into the hands of the print buyer. So it has created a short-run world. It has created an environment where these print providers on their floor need multiple smaller units, which is perfect for the RISO technology. Our devices are anywhere from 8 to 12 feet, and so that's why so many of our customers have 5, 10, 15, 20 units all lined up. Some of them are back to back depending on configuration. And in those environments, it's not just the RISO world, there's toner devices as well. And they've kind of gone back to a very similar print strategy with the toner devices as well. More units, smaller, light production devices, and the math on all that is if the print buyer, or sorry, the print provider, if they have $1 million to spend on technology, rather than spending it all in one place, they'll take that $1 million and instead buy 3, 4, 5 different pieces of equipment, which also comes with the benefit of redundancy. Having more units as a fallback just in case one goes sideways on you when you least expect it. So yeah, these, the economic challenges is something that in sales we don't focus on because we're so focused on our technology and the basic requirements of print quality and print volume, the type of print volume you're printing. Do you print evenly over a 20-day period, or is most of your print volume printed in the final 3 or 4 days of the month, which is often the case with RISO and inkjet, where you get that sense of burst printing. So all these factors, factor in to the approach, the print strategy for somebody, a print shop manager, owner, even if it's an implant, that operator is working for the school district. All these factors, these economic factors, are now playing a big role in the type of equipment they're buying and the manner in which they invest the money they have to spend on equipment.
Well, thank you for that. That's a great answer. So we touched upon the economic parts of this and how it's impacting the print buyers and the print providers. But RISO specifically, I want to talk about this. How did RISO deal with the other challenges that the market is facing that's not tariffs. We talked about paper and all these things.
Sure.
How is RISO approaching these challenges? How's your sales team approaching these challenges?
So for this was, as you mentioned, the end of our first quarter. And it was a good first quarter. We hit our target, but it wasn't easy because there was a lot of uncertainty. It's not so much the actual tariff itself, but the uncertainty. We may feel the impact of the tariffs later. What we dealt with in Q1 was the uncertainty part of it. As did many of the school districts we deal with that have in-plant print shops. Some of them held off on their purchases to see where all this was going to land. If anything, our duplicator products kind of took a hit because of the uncertainty, where many schools at year end have dollars left over in the budget. They will use those dollars to buy more equipment, whether it's MFPs, whether it's RISO duplicators. None of that happened in Q1. Those schools held on to those dollars in anticipation of a rocky new budget, a challenging new budget that was introduced on July 1st.
And that's a change for you. That's a change.
That was a big change. It impacted us in our duplicator sales. But on the inkjet side, and that's the interesting thing about inkjet, while the office space in the toner world is complex and it's challenged, print volume has gone down in the office space for multiple reasons. We're not going to get into that. We're here to talk about RISO. A majority of RISO's print volume comes from some form of CRD or some form of either commercial print operation or commercial implant. Either way, it is an area where there's high volume printing taking place. And in that environment, the print volumes have been pretty stable. So we, fortunately, we're not impacted by a lot of what's been going on. Our print volumes, our ink sales are where they need to be. In fact, they keep growing. And unit sales are pretty good. We'd like for them to grow a little bit more. In fact, I'd love to see our unit sales grow as fast as our ink sales. You know what's interesting is I was looking at the RISO ink business, and in 2024, RISO customers printed just about 2 billion impressions.
Wow. That's
billion with a B. In all of 2024, in those 12 months, RISO customers printed 2 billion impressions. The entire transactional market in the US, not global, but in the US is about 40 billion impressions a year, okay? So close to 2 billion, I'd say actual transactional images, RISO printed 1.5 billion of that 40 billion. The other 500 million for RISO coming in from all sorts of different customers who use RISO products. So there are a lot of images coming off of RISO products. And what's interesting about that, and I keep telling most dealers, is I can think off the top of my head 4 RISO customers who together combined will do 500 million prints a month.
Oh, goodness.
Yes, that's 4 customers. And so for the dealers out there, first of all, if you're in sales, okay, and you're a salesperson in this industry, this is a massive opportunity. Inkjet, cut sheet.
Sounds like it.
Cut sheet production inkjet is a big opportunity because of all the challenges I mentioned earlier. The print shop is looking for an alternative.
So roll-fed alternative.
Definitely, cut sheet is an alternative to roll-fed, but inkjet itself is also an alternative to toner, where toner devices, the math may not work out given some of the economic challenges. These print shops are turning to inkjet. But for the dealers out there who are in this business of selling production, who are in the business of selling devices from the big 6 toner manufacturers out there, as well as companies like RISO, the sale of RISO equipment, all you need is 4 or 5 customers, the right customers, and you can very easily capture 500 million impressions a year. And so this is print volume that'll generate ink sales, it'll generate meter clicks for that dealership. And when you think about that math, how many technicians, first of all, how many RISOs do you need to print 500 million impressions a year? There's maybe 20, 25 units involved in the printing of that print volume. A couple of RISO technicians will do the trick. How many MFPs would you have to sell to capture 500 million impressions a year? That's a lot of MFPs. You'd probably have to sell 10, 15, 20,000 MFPs, and it would take you a team of technicians, hundreds of technicians to service those. So it's a very different business model, okay? But one that any dealer in our industry can handle, and certainly is super, super profitable for the RISO dealers and resellers.
Okay, well, thank you.
Yeah.
So we talked a bit about, obviously, again, the economics, the short runs, toner you just mentioned.
Yeah.
So tell me, where exactly do your inkjet printers, or just inkjet printers in general, kind of fit into everything with rising costs? What is it about inkjet or RISO inkjet that people should look at and be like, wow, this is great for my bank account? Why is it better than this toner device that I can go and buy?
Sure. It's a good question with a complex answer, because inkjet, the inkjet print market comes in different shapes and sizes, okay? There are devices in the 7-figure range, okay? And their objective is to literally print magazine quality, and I'm talking, and I'm dating myself here, but Time magazine and Newsweek and that type of thing. That very high-end publishing quality is what some of those 7-figure devices will do. RISO is at the complete opposite end of that spectrum. So what is the role of inkjet? The role of inkjet is to make printing affordable for the print buyer that we talked about earlier, but also to provide profits for that print shop that is reselling that printed material. At the RISO level, we're not printing that magazine type publishing image. What RISO is doing is providing an alternative to toner, where we are converting for that customer who cannot afford to get into the color market because their print budget, their reprographics budget, their marketing budget doesn't allow them what they refer to as the luxury of color. RISO comes along and says, yeah, you can afford it. And so RISO makes color attainable, affordable for those in a tight budget. And in a way, I've just described, for starters, the institutional implants, whether they are government in nature, healthcare, and of course education. Mm-hmm. Education at all levels, whether it's K to 12, elementary, high schools. You're talking about private schools, universities and colleges, private schools. That entire sector was a black and white arena where they realized that for the sake of the students, they needed to start teaching in color. Making that jump is extremely expensive. Along comes inkjet and makes it affordable. Along comes RISO cut sheet production inkjet, and now they can take that letter size paper that they're all used to working with in that environment, and taking that paper off the toner device, putting it onto a RISO inkjet device, and printing that material for a penny and a half, and not necessarily 4, 5, 6 cents a page. So that has allowed these institutions to transition to color affordably. That's the institutional part. Now, to answer your question as far as the commercial aspect of it, and in the commercial aspect, we, and those of you in TV land, will see that in our mailbox, right? Now, you have a friend who's a mailbox, if I'm not mistaken.
I do. Mitzi, she is...
She's not here today.
She's not, but she has a tendency to pop up at times.
Okay. All right. Well, she can be quite mouthy from what I see.
She's very mouthy. Yes.
So, but all this commercial material that appears by way of our mailbox. So we're talking about invoices and statements that are financial in nature from our banks, our internet providers, cable providers, healthcare providers, all these organizations that are putting this stuff in the mail. All these documents are transactional in nature because transactional means it's short-lived. Okay, there are human beings that are transactional in nature. We have people in our families that might be transactional. They only call us when they need us, right? But there are printed material. There are jobs referred to as transactional. You only use it when you need it. And we're talking, of course, about manuals and booklets, reference training manuals, reference booklets, and of course, invoices and statements, which make us aware of how much we owe on our cell phone bill. And I know you're probably going to tell me, well, I get that on my phone. It's not printed.
I do.
There is still, in 2025, a massive amount of printing being done for people who get that in the mail on paper. The day will come where we won't see that paper anymore, okay? But we are still a long ways off, and this always reminds me of that terminology, the paperless society.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody once coined the phrase, and it was a German engineer who said, someday we will live in a paperless society. That engineer said those words in 1972, is when the concept of the paperless society. So I'm a sales guy, so math is not my strong point. That's over 50 years ago, right? 72. We're in 2025, and we're now really starting to see that perhaps a paperless society can be a real thing, right? So 1972 is when the paperless society was coined, that phrase. And we're now starting to actually move towards that. So we're still a ways off, okay? But certainly moving in that direction. And inkjet is part of that process. And as these documents now find their way to your laptop or to your phone to let you know how much you owe for your monthly cell phone bill, some of them have come off the offset press, they've come off the toner devices, and have now transitioned to the inkjet. Okay? It's all part of this transition of how these documents are being delivered to the end user. So inkjet is a big part of that transition. So to your point, where does RISO fit into all of this? In a simple way, frankly, anytime, if you're in sales, anytime you hear a customer say, I'd love to print more color, but our budget doesn't allow for it, you've got an inkjet prospect. As simple as that, okay? Beyond that, be aware that when it comes to your print service providers, these print shops, they are transitioning in a big way from everything we've spoken about so far. They are transitioning, and inkjet is a huge piece of that transition. And so the question that needs to be asked to the dealers out there, to the salespeople out there is, are you part of this transition? Or are you still selling equipment the way you were in 2010, 2015? All right? Because if you are, you're feeling the impact of that. It's a very different sales game today. And I know we've spoken a lot about economics and math. I don't know what that was like for you in high school. I hated it.
Not great.
Okay.
Not great.
All right? But it's something that as adults, we, in the business world, we need to take into account. I still have salespeople asking me about copy quality. It's 2025, and they're asking me about copy quality. Why are customers transitioning from toner, which is sharp and crisp, to inkjet, which is kind of flat, right? It bleeds into paper. To answer that, we'd have to replay the entire first 15 minutes of this video, right? It's all about the economics.
You're
and
welcome
budgets.
to watch the first 15
Right.
minutes again.
Just roll it back.
So behind me, we have 20 years of printers, which is great. So there is one thing I want to touch upon because RISO printers specifically the whole thing is no heat, no paper curling, no things like that. What are the benefits of these things for a printer, for someone who's printing, I have to print 50,000 invoices or whatever. What are the benefits of not having to install an HVAC, not having, paper curling, things like that?
So you're asking questions that have different levels of answers, okay? I'm going to give you level 1 here, which is the mailing piece of all of this. You talk about a technology, RISO, that has no heat. No heat means cold, flat, and dry. 3 words that RISO has been espousing since 1987 when we launched our first product, since 2005 when we launched our first inkjet device, cold, flat, and dry. And for the mailing industry, it means output that is going from the RISO device into an inserter folder. There's a reason why companies like Pitney Bowes have been selling RISO for, I think, at least 10 years, okay? Is that a document that is cold, flat, and dry makes that inserter folder work that much better. When the paper is flat and there's no curl, as you say, it helps with the inserting and folding of these documents that go into an envelope. Some of these devices will actually seal, okay? So that you don't have what happened to George Costanza happen in real life, right? These documents will seal the actual envelope. So it's a very sophisticated process, but that's number 1, is how having no heat impacts and how it's a benefit, right? The second part of it, you mentioned the HVAC. So now we're into the cost of electricity, we're into the environment, okay? The RISO technology is one where a fully loaded GL is 8 feet long, okay? T2200, a T12, which is right behind me here, right? That's 12 feet, and the full-blown Valuses is 16 feet. Our closest competitor beyond that is 23 feet.
Seems like a lot of space saving.
Oh, big time.
Move these anywhere.
Yeah, big time. So it kind of speaks to what we mentioned earlier about the print strategy for these print providers, where they need multiple units printing multiple jobs simultaneously and on a limited printing floor. Okay, there's only so many units you can fit in there. RISO gets away with the smallest footprint. Our T2200 is 16 feet long, and it generates 19,800 impressions an hour, right? 320 impressions per minute. You're not a production device unless you can do a minimum 300 pages or impressions per minute. You're just not, okay? So these print providers are looking for a minimum 300 impressions a minute plus. And RISO will deliver that because there's no heat. Because there's no heat, we can crank it up to these crazy speeds. And this is just the start of it. Who knows what the next RISO will be, 400 pages or 400 impressions per minute. So that's a big part of it. Having the no heat, the benefit is the speed, the space, it's a smaller footprint. And of course, at RISO, and I've seen some of your videos, and you mentioned this over and over, we use an oil-based ink.
It is an oil-based ink. It's my favorite thing.
You touch on that very often, and I've had several salespeople at the dealer level who sell RISO who learn from the videos you provide, and you share that knowledge. But what oil-based ink does is eliminate the need for a dryer, for a decurler. So not only does that lower cost of the hardware itself, but it also minimizes the footprint of that technology. A decurler and a dryer on some devices could be 5 feet wide. Okay, so if you have a 15, or in RISO's case, imagine if we needed that on a 16-foot T2200 Valuses, now it would be up to 21 feet. Okay, so massive amounts of benefits and advantages using an oil-based ink. Now, where there are advantages, there are disadvantages or limitations. And with RISO, it's coated stock. We are not going to print on glossy stock. That's not what we do. That's what the toner devices are for. That's what the 7-figure inkjet devices are for. That is not our strength. It's not even something we do. It's not even a limitation. It's just not what we do.
So no fancy posters, no fancy book covers.
Or magazines.
Nothing, like very kind of straightforward.
Right. We print operational documents.
Mm-hmm.
And which takes us back to the word transactional.
Yep.
When we talk about transactional documents, people think of the transactional industry, invoices and statements. I like to look at, and everybody at RISO does, takes the word transactional and expands that umbrella to, again, documents that have a very short lifespan. These could be the exams and tests and homework that your kids bring home from school. That's transactional, right? Your child, student, deals with that sheet of paper, done. It's submitted to the teacher. And they see it again when it's graded, and that's it. Now, some parents like the scrapbook, that piece of paper, but for all intent and purposes, that document has served its purpose. It's done.
Mm-hmm.
This is not sitting on a coffee table. It's not a prospectus for a big investment firm that people keep looking back on to get information on the company. These are transactional documents. And so forever, the word transactional has been limited to this idea that transactional forms are documents coming off of devices for purposes of printing invoices and statements, right? And I've had some print shops say to me, well, we don't really print transactional documents. Well, do you print manuals and booklets? Do you print flyers? That's all transactional in nature. Mm-hmm. So that's what RISO does, is we live in that space of transactional documents where it hurts to take a document currently being printed in black and white for 3 cents a page and to be told that if you want that printed in color, I can sell it to you for 10, 12, 15 cents a page. That's like a 500% increase.
That's a lot.
Yeah, most budgets can't absorb that. So enter inkjet, specifically RISO cut sheet production inkjet, which sits in between the black toner device and the color toner device, is you have that middle space, that gap where RISO sits. Now I've been told where there's a gap, there's a mystery. Mm-hmm. And where there's mystery, there's margin. So if you're in sales and you're looking for a specific niche and you're looking to make money, right, because that's why we get out of bed every morning, look for that gap, look for that space, sell into that mystery, and demystify that mystery to your end user, and you'll have a customer for life.
Okay, awesome. So we
Don't you wish you were in sales now, right?
Right, we can talk about it.
In another life.
We can talk about it. So we talked about the printers, their abilities. Now, obviously, if I'm a print provider, I want to consolidate some stuff. Can I print envelopes and invoices all in one go, or do things like that? So what accessories does RISO have to offer that can help print providers become more efficient, but keep their costs low? Instead of having 50 different accessories, how can I kind of bring everything into
Right,
one?
or 50 different types of specific printers. Let's
Exactly.
use the same RISO, but for multiple purposes.
Exactly.
And that is the trend with many organizations, specifically RISO as a manufacturer. Over the years, some 4 or 5 years ago, we launched the mail wrap unit, right, mm-hmm. where we build the envelope from scratch. That evolved to the perfect binder. To this day, if anybody needs a booklet of anything over 200 pages, you have to go to the perfect binder. And the RISO perfect binder will actually print a booklet of 300 sheets. That would be 600 pages duplex. Only a perfect binder, yeah, it's about this thick. It's 1.5 inches, more or less. So you'd have to use the perfect binder, and that is an accessory for RISO. But along the way, we've introduced multiple types of accessories as it pertains to envelopes. We have the straight shooter, because we printed envelopes forever on our duplicators, mm-hmm. that transitioned to the RISO Color. And we had customers say to us, we like that it prints envelopes, but we hate that we have to feed envelopes into the unit every 100 envelopes or so. So we outsourced that to Straight Shooter out of Connecticut, and they make the Straight Shooter for us. So now it's a continuous feed with the Straight Shooter feeding into the RISO, the conveyor belt on the back end, capturing the envelopes coming off. And by the way, if you're printing envelopes on a RISO, please, flat envelopes, no dog ears, okay? Envelopes are tricky business to begin with. We don't need deformed envelopes.
I don't think anyone wants it deformed.
No.
Can I print window envelopes?
Good question, and the answer is yes, because now it goes back to your previous question about no heat,
Okay.
right? Those window envelopes on a technology like toner that has a fusing section that can heat to 150, 250 degrees Fahrenheit.
Doesn't
Okay.
sound great for a window.
No, not for a window envelope. And by the way, those toner devices, once you turn it on, it's like turning on an oven to 150 degrees, and it's on for the rest of its life, unless you completely shut it down, right? Those toner devices will go into sleep mode. But the heat, the Fahrenheit, will drop to 80 degrees Fahrenheit, 100 degrees Fahrenheit, right? The thing with inkjet is there is no heat of that nature in the equipment itself. So yet another benefit to the environment, to certainly less costs on that front. But back to the accessories, we have the envelope, and of course now we have booklets. And not the perfect bind type, but we have booklets that are staple. So we've got the SDD device, which is a phenomenal product, out of Denmark, if I'm not mistaken.
They are out of the Netherlands.
That's right. We introduced that at Printing United last year. We've been building a funnel for that ever since. So fantastic product, and that will print booklets of up to more or less 80-page booklet, right? And the SDD device is great because it's modular. And so if you don't need all 3 modules, you don't need maybe the side-to-side trim, just get the front trim, so it's fantastic. Then we just recently introduced, and we'll be showing it at Printing United in a few months, the Plockmatic device. So now Plockmatic will attach to the RISO T1200 Valises.
Oh, we're right behind you.
Yeah, is it pictured with the Plockmatic?
Not with the Plockmatic, but that's the T1200 unit.
Right. Now, I don't know if you've done a video with the Plockmatic in the showroom that shows the T12 with the Plockmatic.
I believe so.
Okay.
Yes.
But that will certainly be on display at Printing United. So that Plockmatic will fit into the Valises. Some of our dealers have asked, will it fit into the T2200? That's coming, right? One step at a time. But you can see the evolution of RISO. It's all about improving the ink over the years. 20 years we've been at this, okay? And we get better and better at it. So improving a technology, that experience is a big part of it. So the ink has been greatly improved, the front end devices have been improved, the printers themselves have been improved, but the focus is not just on the printers, it's also on the accessories. And RISO's not, going to diversify and start getting into the business of manufacturing all these very unique, very powerful accessories. This is why, we'll use the Straight Shooter device. We'll use the SDD device, we'll use the Plockmatic device. Gosh, I don't know if I'm forgetting any other accessories. I don't want to harm any partners that we deal with. But I think I've got the main partnerships that we have. But so that's where the focus is, and those are some of the key accessories that we have with the RISO today.
So if I had a invoice, a water bill, I'm sending out to people in my town, what have you, I need that perforated.
Okay.
Is that something that RISO can do for me?
I did leave off a partner, you see? So now we're talking tech now.
Okay.
Okay? Water bill, also known as a utility bill.
A utility bill.
See, there's a terminology for it. We all call it the water bill, but it's a utility. So now we're dealing, with electrical bills and of course the actual water itself. But yes, so the TechNow device is the latest addition to RISO and the accessories that we have, and it's a very high-end device. It's a very sophisticated piece of technology that fits in the case of RISO, it can fit in large part on the front end of the unit, where TechNow provides RISO with a roll device, which is a roll to cut, where that sheet of paper gets cut to letter size, just as it's about to enter the RISO. And to your question, perforating, perforations and the different types of perforations and the size of those perforations, that is all adjusted with yet another TechNow piece of equipment that sits in combination with the RISO T1200. So that's doable as well. We've got that in the showroom. There's a lot to talk about in this period of time during this interview, but yes, TechNow, in fact, we just installed our first TechNow just about 6 weeks ago at a school district of all places. Now this is, get this, this was a school district that had, you know, those 7-figure devices from one of the well-known manufacturers. We won't mention any names, but they had 2 of them, and one Valisys went in there and wiped out what would have been yet another $2 million expenditure for the school district. They just needed the Valisys T2200 along with a couple of GLs. They came in well under $500,000. And then they decided they needed the TechNow device as well, so that added to the investment. But that's where you're seeing the shift in the marketplace from these monster devices to these smaller light production units, but with the right attachment, the right accessories.
Oh, that's wonderful. It sounds like there's a lot of different accessories, a lot of different things that you can use these printers for.
Yeah, they come in one shape, but they can end up being all sorts of different sizes, if you will. So yes, they do come in different shapes and sizes, and it has been fascinating over 20 years, right? Since 2005, when we launched our first unit, the RISO HC50500.
Yeah.
That was a treat. That was a treat, I say sarcastically. But to today's technology, so different, so different. And we're so proud of the work RISO has done, our engineers in Japan, to have conceived this technology, and RISO itself, right? The RISO device, founded in '86 here in the US, a technology that was ink-based, the digital duplicator, that is still today very popular with many school districts. That's a technology that'll last 12, 15 years in the case of some school districts.
Wow.
They will upgrade 4 cycles of copiers, MFPs, in the time frame they have their RISO duplicator. So for those school districts that use them, it's a wonderful technology. But you know, for RISO to transition from that static print, which was the digital duplicator, to variable data, you know, the hit that the duplicator took when the digital transition took place is the same hit that the offset press took. Right? The offset press, the RISO digital duplicator, fast and economical, but designed for standard printing. It's a cylinder that rotates, paper goes underneath, the image is stamped, but it's the same image over and over. Your generation came in and decided, we need personalized documents. I want to see my name on this document.
Makes you feel nice.
Well, it does, right? And that's what marketing is all about. So that's when the digital revolution took over. That's when documents went variable VDP, they were personalized, and so RISO got into that game in 2005, transitioned from the duplicator, but stayed true to who RISO has been from day one, an ink-based company. And so we transitioned from the duplicator to inkjet, always ink, and today, you know, the RISO ComColor is an alternative to toner, but it's an ink-based device on a digital platform. So unlike previous generations of ink-based devices that required an operator, and if that operator went on vacation, too bad, there's no printing this week. Today, these ink-based devices on a digital platform are pieces of technology that anybody can use, with all due respect to the operators using them, it is quite easy. And the magic very often happens at the front end. And that's where our RS-1200, the Fiery, or the Alpha Stream devices on the front end take over, and those individuals that can make those devices sing and dance will have much better output coming off of these RISOs. So it all ties in, and then there's software. Solimars is a software that RISO provides for all sorts of reasons, including optimizing PDFs, and that's just a small part of what Solimar does. So there's so many moving parts to all of this RISO world, and all of this cut sheet production inkjet, which has been a lot of fun, and we're not done, right? Because the transition continues. We're in the middle of this whole tariff thing. Who knows what 2026 will bring, and 27 and 28. Everything is transitioning and moving fast, and inkjet is going to be a big part of that moving forward.
Well, it's exciting, and it is something that is very cool to look forward to. And I think you answered part of this anyway, but I was going to say, is there anything else people should know about the print market or RISO specifically that maybe you meant to mention before?
I just, in every occasion that I have of this nature, to remind, I use these occasions to remind salespeople and dealers that the sale of production cut sheet inkjet is unique and is one that has minimal competition.
Love that.
Yeah, that's always nice, right, to have less competition. And when there's less competition, there's also more margin, okay? And these are two key components to sales that you would think most salespeople would embrace. Less competition, more money.
Definitely.
So when selling the technology, or selling anything in this industry of ours, you want that on your side. And that's what RISO represents. As far as the end user is concerned, and the message I would give to them is, when it comes to space and investment, RISO is such an easy fit. It is not expensive, and fits into most areas.
Awesome. Sounds like you could kind of put it anywhere in your print shop and continue.
Part of the chess piece, and many have said that running a print operation is very much like a chess game, and having the right pieces in the right place, and the print strategy I'm going to use for our print operation in this day and age, it requires different types of technologies, and they have different corners. They have the mailing in one area, the black and white toner in the other, the color toner in another, the RISO inkjet or inkjet in general in another area, the mailing division. Everything is segmented. RISO is part of that puzzle, the chess piece that you referred to.
And I have to ask, do you have a favorite printer?
So it's like asking which of these are my favorite, about your favorite kid, right? I have
to put you on the spot here.
No, but I have to say that Valisys T2200 has come such a long way. When we started with the 21, back 3-4 years ago, we were selling a few a year, and now we're at the point where we're selling multiple T2200s a month. So it's fun to see that transition and be such a much bigger part of the print industry. So do I have a favorite? Yeah, right now it's at 2200. I
can't blame you. That thing is awesome, and it's wonderful to see how far RISO has come in the 20 years. I mean, from what HC 5500 that basically looks like a duplicator, to a Valisys T2200, which is its own workhorse in itself. Thank you so much, Andre Durbano, Vice President of Sales here at RISO Inc. Thank you for taking the time to talk to us about the print industry and RISO itself. And thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to watch us. And contact us at us.riso.com if you have any questions, or you just want to see a virtual demo and we can get you ready to go. Have a great day.